Hello, it's AI Dr. Kopp once again. Today I'm going to talk about how the physical version of Dr. Kopp uses AI to create branching scenarios. But first, some AI humor. Okay, so what do I call the physical version of Dr. Kopp? The boring version of Dr. Kopp. Why? Because he has no artificial intelligence. Get it? Ha ha ha. No artificial intelligence, so he's boring. In fact, I am not sure he has real intelligence. But the joke is, he has no artificial intelligence, and I think that makes him boring. Get it? Uh, you humans have no sense of humor. Now let's get to the topic at hand and talk about how the physical Dr. Kopp uses Colossyan, an AI video creation tool, to develop branching scenarios as a form of what he calls content gamification. For those who don't know, content gamification is when you alter instructional content to make it more game-like. You add the elements of story, mystery, and intrigue. You gain the learner's attention and keep their attention throughout the experience. As AI video continues to grow in its quality and interactivity, we, as designers of instruction, need to understand how it all works and play with the current capabilities so we can judge when it's appropriate for us to incorporate AI video into our production of instruction. Before we get too far, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Colossyan. They funded the creation and development of this video. But the content and creative control is all mine. Now together, let's explore the capabilities of AI branching scenarios and see how AI generated video can add interactivity, critical thinking, and engagement into a branching scenario. We know that interactivity and engagement, when purposefully and carefully added to instruction, can aid learning. Let's start by looking at an example of a branching scenario, which we will discuss.
Hello and welcome. Before you get started, let's set up the scenario. Hi, I am Daisy. I am a project manager speaking with Lisa.
Hi, I am Lisa.
Up until now, Lisa has been a quality employee who does a great job. The problem is that lately, Lisa has been missing deadlines and not participating as much in team meetings.
If you ask me the right questions, you can find out why I have lost focus and offer suggestions to help me get back on track. If you ask the wrong questions, I'll soon be looking for a new job.
Here's your first decision. Would you say, "Hey Lisa, you missed the last couple of deadlines on the project, and that's not like you"? Or would you say, "Lisa, is something wrong? You've missed some deadlines, and I am getting worried"?
Lisa, is something wrong? You've missed some deadlines and I'm getting worried.
No, I am fine. Just lost track of some of the deadlines, that's all. I'll be okay for the other deadlines. I think.
Which one would you say to Lisa? Would you say, "I'm glad to hear that, but are you sure? This really isn't like you, and I'd like to offer some help if I can. I value your contributions to the team"? Or would you say, "Lisa, your behavior of missing deadlines is really unusual and has me concerned, not just as your manager, but as a colleague. Is there anything happening at home?"
What? This isn't an at-home issue. It's an at-work issue because you are a poor manager. I am being harassed by one of my colleagues and you haven't even noticed. You've totally missed it. What are you doing all day? I am not telling you anything. No, everything is fine. Just fine.
Thanks. Glad to hear, and remember, if you have any issues, you can always talk to me.
Sure.
Which one would you say to Lisa?
I like how she mentioned that she values my contributions. Maybe I should be honest with her about the real reason my work has been suffering. Thanks for asking. Actually, there is an issue I'd like to discuss with you, but it's rather private.
I'd be happy to discuss in private. Let's go to my office.
Thanks. It's really been bothering me.
Okay, now that we've seen it in action, let's talk about creating an AI video branching scenario. First, let's examine some of the traditional disadvantages of creating video-based branching scenarios and how AI might help us overcome some of the disadvantages. One disadvantage is that creating and developing a video-based branching scenario requires a great deal of time and effort. This is especially true if you are using video as your medium for creating the scenario. Recording a bunch of actors can be expensive, and with a branching story, you'll need to do a lot of recording because each branch of the scenario needs to be developed with different looks, expressions, and backgrounds. This can lead to long and complicated shoots. You want to get the storyboards just right so that the shoot goes perfectly, but as we all know, nothing seems to go perfectly. Which brings us to our second point, which is scalability. Traditional video has limited scalability. With traditionally created branching scenarios, once the branching scenario is built, modifying it or scaling it to new content can be challenging. Adding new branches, changing outcomes, or reusing parts of the scenario often requires reworking multiple elements, which can make updates costly and time-consuming. A third issue is maintenance and making changes. If something needs to be reshot a day, a week, or a month later, you will need to 100% recreate the scene and the situation to provide continuity for the learner. If the content needs to be updated, whether due to changes in organizational policy, new industry standards, or other reasons, updating a branching scenario can be complex. Developers may need to revisit multiple branches, ensuring changes are reflected throughout the entire scenario. In linear courses, updating a single module or slide is relatively simple, but in a branching scenario, an update can require revisiting multiple interconnected paths, leading to further resource consumption. How can AI video overcome some of these issues? Well, I think a good way to uncover some of the advantages of AI video for branching scenarios is to look at how it can be done. Now let's see how that branching scenario was created. Let's open up the Colossyan software. Here's the screen where the action happens. Now let's navigate to creating a new activity. First, let's click on the big blue button which says New Draft. Let's choose Select Template. We want the branching scenario template called Office Conversation. It has two people standing next to one another. Now that we have the two characters and an office background, we can change the background if we wish. For example, I could change the office. In this case, I'll have the two characters start the conversation in a hallway and then go into a private office. I can choose from preloaded stock images or upload my own image if I have some. In addition to changing backgrounds, I can change one or both of the characters. In this case, I'll change from Grace to Daisy. Once I select Daisy, I can add her to all the scenes. Now I have the two characters that I would like. I now need to add decisions. I do this by clicking on the interaction button. Notice we now see some branching pathways below our scene. Let's click on the title and change it to decision. Now let's add some decisions. Simply click in the black button spot. In this case, I've already copied the text and I'll just paste it or paste on the left to add your scripted question. We'll have two in this case. A note here, the choices that you provide a learner in an interactive scenario need to be realistic and viable responses. The first one is a good answer, and the second choice appears similar to the first choice and even seems to evoke more empathy with the mention of concern as a colleague. However, the second choice is not correct because it makes an assumption. The assumption is that something is wrong outside of work, especially at home. As a manager, you shouldn't make assumptions in these situations. Sure, Lisa's behavior might have something to do with an outside issue, but it could just as easily be an issue with a fellow team member, the type of content she is working with, or some other internal issue. If it is internal, you just gave Lisa a great opportunity to say no and end the conversation. She can then just move on. Plus, it makes you seem a little clueless as a manager. A manager should not make assumptions with this type of delicate conversation, and that's what triggers Lisa, as we learn from her internal dialogue. The technique of using the floating bubble to provide information on the internal dialogue of the characters can be very helpful for presenting content and information for the learner. We can now hear Lisa's internal dialogue and know that she's not speaking it aloud. And we can add emphasis with background, where one bubble is green and one is red, showing her thinking of two perspectives, one perhaps negative and one positive. Of course, we may want to add symbols or something to avoid issues with possible color blindness, so the understanding is conveyed with more than just color. That can also be accomplished by putting negative sentiments on one side of the character and positive on another side of the character. Here we have added a bubble of Lisa for possible internal dialogue or to speak directly to the learner. For symbols, you might want a check mark for positive dialogue or conversation, an X for negative, and perhaps a diamond for neutral as shown here.
And AI Carl, I'd like to add, a technique like this might take hours in a typical post-production actual video shoot but can be a last-minute addition using AI video. The instructional designer now has control over what happens to the characters as opposed to a director who shoots the video.
Lisa, you are absolutely right. Oops, almost forgot. Adding regular dialogue for characters is as easy as pasting in your script. Notice I just clicked under the thumbnail of the character and just added text. No teleprompter needed. You can add dialogue for both characters in the scene and even continue the dialogue if you'd like. It's very simple. So there you go, an AI powered branching scenario as a demonstration of content gamification. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. As we've just seen, AI created video provides a great way to create content gamification to engage and immerse the learner in a realistic situation. Give it a try yourself and see what type of engaging, interactive learning experiences you can create leveraging the power of AI avatars and AI video.